everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Living with Jesus series. I am Brittany Shawley, and today I'm here with Gabriel. Welcome, Gabe.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. I'm really grateful to be able to capture your story here and share it with others. So thank you for your time. So as always, maybe we'll just dive in with a little bit of a broad question so we can learn a little bit more about your relationship to Jesus. But my main question is, how do you see Jesus? Who is he to you?
Well, it's an interesting question because I think my journey to Jesus is a bit interesting. I was born Jewish. I'm still Jewish, I guess. I don't really practice Judaism, and Jesus, of course, was Jewish. But in Judaism, I think I was 27 or 28 before I actually set foot in a church. There's a lot of conditioning, implicit, explicit, about Christianity, and Jesus is really part of Christianity. I think for me, it wasn't just Jesus, it was Christianity, and then Jesus is part of that. And I didn't know much about him until much, much later in my life. So it's been an exploration, quite frankly, that started very early in my spiritual journey. There were signs, but quite late in life. So I was probably 37, 38 before I started my spiritual journey. I'm 53 now, so it's been quite an interesting 15 years. And the main, I think the main portal for me was the Urantia book, which I spent many years translating from English to Hebrew and reading several times before I started translating. And when I basically read his entire life story from cover to cover, and understood who he is, not only who he was as Jesus of Nazareth, but who he is still, was before, and now still is, which is an exciting revelation to me. I guess that changed everything, because now I could understand, first of all, that Jesus is not part of Christianity, or not necessarily part of Christianity. At least it's not for me. I don't practice Christianity in any form. And I can still have a relationship with him today, not only as the historical personality that was Jesus 2000 some years ago, but also who he is today. And his spirit is on this planet, and he still has a role and function to play. And all that is in the Urantia book, so anybody can read about it. I'm not going to talk about it. But for me, that was exciting. Okay, if this is true, then, what do I do with the rest of my life? And actually that's what happened. The rest of my life is really an unfolding adventure that has to do with God, but also quite a lot with Jesus. I was baptized in the Jordan in 2014, and that was an extremely touching experience. And I think that was also a changing point. I'm not talking in things in terms he's my savior, or how I'm saved again or born again. I'm not talking really in those terms, because they're not really part of my vocabulary. I can understand, but the baptism ceremony was important. It felt like it was another level of connection. And then since then, it's just an exploration of how things happen in my life and what is it that God wants me to do. And it seems like he wants me to spend some time with Jesus and share him with the world.
Amen. Can I ask a question about the baptism for a minute? Because I personally haven't been baptized, because I also don't have a background in Christianity or religion of that sorts. Although, as you know, and everybody who's watching this post probably knows at this point, I am his, my life is his. And so I've given my everything to him. But the idea of baptism, I guess, outside of having to be baptized within a church, has always been curious to me. And to be honest, I didn't even know it was possible to technically get baptized outside of the church. So like, I would love to kind of maybe flesh out that idea a little bit more. Like, what was it that drove you to get baptized? And like, why do you feel like it was so significant for you in more of like a shift in your life?
I'll start from the end. Actually, there's a scene that we actually decided to put in one of the videos that we made for the project that we're doing. It's from the Bible story. It's a long 10 episode series that was produced by the History Channel and broadcast many years ago. There's a scene where Jesus comes to the Jordan and is baptized by John the Baptist.
Is this the Jesus of Nazareth movie?
No, it's called the Bible series, and it's all about the Old Testament and the New Testament, but some episodes are about, the New Testament and Jesus.
Sure.
So this particular scene, I don't think it was shot in Israel, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
John with Rasta, it's a Rasta John, wearing some kind of a rugged outfit, is in a river, and he's baptizing people. Jesus has clearly been walking for a long time. He's got a soiled tunic, and he's been traveling. And people part ways, and he's actually walking towards the river, and John looks at him and recognizes him, and in his mind is thinking, whatever he's going to say next, which is, it's not, you should be baptizing me. And then Jesus tells him, please baptize me. It is proper that you do it for my brothers. And then the next thing is really what is touching. John understands what is going on here. He actually puts his hand behind Jesus and slowly immerses him like a baby in the water. And this is exactly what they did to me. You go into the Jordan River. It's not the same location where probably that happened. It's a different location, but people don't really know. And somebody actually takes you as a baby and just fully immerses you in the water. And there's many rituals about water in Judaism and many other traditions. It really cleanses you. And I just felt another level of connection. And it was done by a minister as part of the group. There's an actual site that many tourists that come to Israel go there, and it's organized. You can actually go down with stairs, and there's rails, and it's very properly done. You can buy a tunic. They sell you those tunics, and you just wear a very white cloth tunic, and somebody just puts you in the water. You're going back to the womb. I mean, it's magical. So it's not like somebody sprinkles water on your face and says a few words, and which is okay. It's a ritual.
Yeah.
As an adult, choosing to do this was it was like accepting that. I didn't really think in those terms, I'm his or something like that, but it's a dedication, it's a consecration. And rituals are important, and it was beautiful.
Well, it sounds beautiful, and I feel the energy of it, and I love that. I think that it's amazing, just how we're all led on our different paths to experience the things that we need to lead us, further along our journey. So thank you for sharing. So you may have touched a little bit on this, but I would still love to know, like, was there a particular turning point for you that really made you go, like, I want to follow Jesus, or I want to learn more about him? Maybe like, because you were saying that, translating the Urantia papers was a big part of that for you. So I know it was like reading his story and learning more about him, but was there like a particular like moment that you're like, I have to dedicate my life to him and learn what God wants me to do? Like, kind of maybe tell me a little bit of a before after that moment. Yeah.
I think one of the things that you and I discussed a while back, and we still have as a dream, is sharing people our paths to basically God.
Yeah.
It's like, and I heard those words that I shared with you, a personal relationship with God. many years ago, and they really touched me very deeply, even though I didn't understand what it meant until much later. So in that sense, I'm not differentiating between Jesus and God. It's the same thing for me. It's dedicating my life on this planet and all the gifts that I've been giving to serve. And actually, what God says is, he gave us gifts and talents and everything else we need in life and everything. But he also said, I want you to become like me. I want you to become perfect, like I am perfect. And it actually appears in the Urantia papers as be you as perfect as I am perfect. And in Hebrew, perfect is translated as whole. It comes from the whole root.
Amazing.
So, and so what does it mean? And they actually say, when you love your brothers as I loved you, which is what he said, you're becoming more and more godly. And so you're doing this in your life, and we have so many opportunities to do this. So it's not like I'm saying I'm dedicating my life to Jesus. I'm dedicating my life to serve, and then whatever comes to me is sharing Jesus with the world. So this is what basically what I'm going to be probably doing the rest of my life is different projects and different ways to do that. So it wasn't really, I cannot see a turning point where I said, aha, this is what I have to do. It's been really a very unfolding, very gradual process. Actually, it's very funny because I went very deep into the yoga tradition, and I've been trained as a teacher, and I practice many different types of advanced techniques, yogic techniques. And when I was coming back from my training, a very intensive year of yoga, I had a layover in an airport, and on my way back to Israel, and a lady came to me and said, where are you going? I said, I'm going back home to Israel. And then she, out of the blue, she asked me, are you saved, or is Jesus your savior? And I looked like a yogi. I was completely like Gandhi, I was like, and I looked at her and I said, no, I really appreciate what you're saying. I can sense that it's working for you, but I'm in a different path. It's not my path. But then that changed. So it's really like a progress. I had to do one thing to be open for the next thing, to be open for the next thing. And so it's not like there was a turning point. It's a process. And it's like I said, this morning, something came that wasn't there before, even though it was right in front of my eyes, I couldn't see it. And then I was buzzing all day because, oh my God, it's like, and so it really unfolds. It's a tremendous adventure.
I love hearing you share this because it mirrors me. It mirrors me so much because that's how I started too. It's like dedicating my life to being of service to humanity. Like, how can I bring more love to this world and be more loving? Like, that was my only focus. And I had experiences of people too trying like, so do you believe in Jesus? Are you saved by Jesus? I'm like, I couldn't even say Jesus. Like, it was so like, it was like same thing. Like, I honor you, I respect you, but it's not my path. But the more that we open to learning about love and like allowing ourselves to be loving and to extend whatever gifts that we've been given to give, it's almost like we naturally are brought to Jesus. It just kind of like happens of itself alone, and you kind of go, okay, I stumbled into this, holy moly, how did that happen? So I can feel so much resonance with you in that. I'm excited about this next question, and I want you to take the stage.
I just want to say one more thing,
please.
I feel that I can say this as somebody who was born Jewish and practiced yoga, which is Hindu, and I tried Sufism and different. I tasted many spiritual paths. I think what maybe I was, I don't want to say chosen, but maybe I'm doing this because I can say I don't have any baggage from any denomination. I'm not this one, not that one, not this one, not that one. And I think what the world needs, Christianity brought the world to Jesus, but now we need to bring Jesus to the world, which is nothing to say that Christianity is bad or any other religion
No.
is bad. No, it's
No.
just that we need something else now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of young people who research shows are not finding themselves in institutionalized religion. They're going away. They're drifting away from it. They're going to music and nature and relationships. They're trying to find meaning in different things. But at the same time, we all know that somebody who finds God is becoming whole in a way that nothing else on the material plane can do. And even if that person doesn't know it yet, like I didn't know many years ago, we can tell that this is the natural progression of things. So basically, we want to share this in a safe way, in an innovative way, in a non-religious, in a sense of institutional. So it's above all religions, and it's not connected to any one religion. And this is what young people are doing. They're taking little things, little tidbits, and they actually gave it a name. It's called Unbundled faith.
Ooh.
So they're building their faith from not necessarily one particular tradition and saying, okay, I follow Islam, or I follow Hinduism, or I follow Judaism, or I follow Christianity, this flavor or that flavor. No, I want to take prayer from this, and I want to take some meditation from there, and I want to do some rituals with chakras and yoga, and I want to do some mindfulness, and I want to be in nature. And so they're looking for their faith palette as an offering of many colors, many things. And I guess this is where we're going. So Jesus's teachings, his life story, he's one of the biggest heroes on this planet, being born as a babe, doing all of his inner journey to wherever he finished, and then coming back, and then so he's basically, it's like he's a trailblazer. He's showing us what is possible in a human life. And you don't have to believe that this is God incarnate. Just listen to his story, see what he said, see what he did, and how were people affected. And it's like any other major teacher, only he's not like any other major teacher. I mean, I've studied. You can say good things about Moses and Muhammad and Abraham and the Buddha, and they all have their roles, and they're all beautiful teachers and very inspiring, and billions are following them, and for good reason. Only he was different. And what we're doing is just inviting people to, listen to the stories and see how it feels, and if you can get some value from it. That's it.
Amen. Thank you. I think that's actually, it's a perfect segue to the next question. And I really do want you to take this next question, whatever way you're inspired to take it, and share as much or as little as you're inspired to share, because I know a little bit about your work, and I'm so grateful for everything you're bringing to the world. But my next question is, how is it that you include Jesus in your daily life or in your daily work? Like, what does your work with Jesus look like?
So on a personal note, like I've been practicing different types of meditation from the yogic perspective. And then just recently I switched to contemplative meditation by Father Thomas Keating, which actually was an important step in my personal spiritual journey, because it really was less doing and more being. If I, it was, I did one thing for many, many years. And then one day I said, well, it's not wrong, but it's over and I have to do something else. So I did. And through that, I also started working with some people who were trained in A Course of Miracles. So I got that vocabulary and those practices for, dealing with daily life and things that are coming from ego. And so I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And then just recently, when we started talking, a few weeks back, I switched from working with the Spirit of Truth to actually asking Jesus for help, which is it's a big deal to me, because the Spirit of Truth is almost impersonal, right? And it doesn't touch on my conditioning, the Judaism conditioning that I still have in me, which makes me more uncomfortable because of the bundling between Christianity and Jesus. So I guess that's a segue to what I'm doing, which is basically trying to unbundle that and bring Jesus to everybody, all races, all religions, all ages. But we're specifically targeting the youth. And what we're going to do is we're working on something called the Jesus Metaverse, which is a software program. It's going to be, available for free, and you're going to be able to run it on your browser. And it's going to tell you the stories. It's going to be engaging you in, you'll be able to ask her, for example, what did Jesus do when he was 25? And it will show you all the things that happened on that year. Or where did Jesus go? Where did he travel? And we'll show you a map and you can follow him. Or what was his relationship with his mom? That's an amazing topic.
Amazing question.
And you can see, and so we have many, many topics like that, which really look at his life and teachings from a wide angle and a lot of perspectives, and also the people who were there and their relationships and what happened there. It's a bit inspired by The Chosen, the TV show, which has a similar take on that. But we're coming from the Urantia papers mostly, and we're going to synchronize that with the Gospels. Yeah. But the Urantia papers have a wealth of information. It's just too good to not to use. It's like, it's an amazing source. So, and we can weave those stories. Yeah. So this is going to be a software program that allows you to immerse yourself and almost like be a fly on the wall. And so we're designing it now, we're building the database, and it's going to take a while, but it's going to be ready, I think, within a year. And we're also working on something we call the Jesus Museum, which we want to build something like this in Israel, so people can come and have an immersive experience, almost like the Van Gogh type of experience, something that you can go back and but in person. So the metaverse is online. You can do it from anywhere with a regular computer or a phone or a tablet. But the museum is something you go to, and it's a personal experience. And we would really love to build it on the Sea of Galilee, which is basically where most of his work happened. That place is still infused with much of his energy. I've been there so many times. I sense, I'm based in Israel. And then what happened today that I was telling you before we started talking is that I was inspired to start looking at the possibility of doing a traveling Jesus experience, just like the Van Gogh experience, and bringing that richness to basically the entire world. So this is an idea that arrived this morning. So it's really
so fresh,
just very, very fresh. But it's so exciting because, instead of people having to travel for an in-person experience, which is important, because we feel with all of our senses, and a computer is a marvelous technology, but it's still not the same as being somewhere surrounded by music and sound and atmosphere and color and light. And that we're going to start brainstorming about that and seeing how we can tell those stories in an immersive way and bring Jesus basically all over the world. So that's what we're doing.
I celebrate that. I celebrate this so immensely. I feel like this is like the hearts and souls of us are calling for an experience and an understanding like this, that we can learn more about Jesus, and it doesn't necessarily have to come from the Gospels, although I hear that you're like including the Gospels in this, so it's even more whole. And I think something I want to point out too that has always fascinated me is kind of the idea of the quote unquote lost years of Jesus. It's like, so like, what did he do between the time he was 12 at the temple and he shows up at like 31 and he starts working miracles? Like, clearly there's a training period in there. Like, what happened? And I feel like understanding what happened in that space is so relatable to so many of us, because we have to go through that space. Like, there's a training ground for us too. And so I think having an immersive experience like this, where we get to, I want to say, like, intimately meet Jesus, I don't think it would be possible for people to leave and not be changed. And so I see this as a gift, as a blessing, and I support it with every ounce of my being. And I want people to know too, I'll put like links and some of your videos and whatever you want to share with people at this time below, so that they can kind of learn more and be part of it in whatever capacity you know, they're inspired too, but this is incredible. Yeah. Okay, so I think the next place that I would love to go and like lean into, and I'm very curious as to your answer to this question actually. How do you view Jesus's role as teacher of humanity, as guide or healer of humanity? Like, how do you perceive his function in that?
It's a very good question. There's two aspects. I think the first one is, you know, when you write something, when you write a novel or a script, the first thing they tell you is show, don't tell. So don't tell people how the actor is feeling. Just make the actor say something or do something to show that he's angry. He shouldn't say, I'm angry. Or he should act angry. So by watching what he did, you know, what was his life like, and how did he live his life, his religious life, his life with everybody who was around him, and then what he said and what he did and what he taught specifically, that's one aspect of it. But I think the other one for me is, again, it's coming from the Urantia papers, and we wouldn't know this unless we read it there. I wouldn't know something like this. But the reason in Christianity, at least, they say that Jesus is God incarnate, or he's both the Son of God and the Son of Man. What does it really mean? So the Urantia book actually opens up and shares a lot of details about what it really means. And I think he tried to explain this to his apostles, but, you know, imagine something like this, and you're talking to somebody like Jesus, and he tries to explain to you concepts that your mind 2,000 years ago cannot understand. So they, you know, they understood some things, and then again, it got lost in translation with whatever they were writing. So the Urantia book really sets the record straight with information specifically about this. And what they say is that Jesus is a creator. So is it specifically called the creator's son. And he created this entire universe that we're in. This planet is part of his universe. And it's not the only universe, there are others. So space, the huge space that we see, and now with this new James Webb telescope, I think astronomers are going to see things that they will not know how to explain. And that will open up our perspective into what is really out there. But I'm not an astronomer. I don't know anything about that. I just have a feeling that it will change us. Anyway, this universe is his creation. And he's actually obligated to take what is called an incarnation mission. He has to do this actually 7 times in order to be the supreme sovereign authority in his universe. So basically, he has to train and live a life as his creatures. And the last time he does this as a human on one of the human planets. And of course, we're not alone in this universe, so this is not the only human planet. He chose this planet, and he became Jesus of Nazareth. So he was actually born as a babe. And he had to go through the process of, I mean, he had some clues, but he was actually growing up as a child, as a normal child in a normal parenting. There were some supernatural things happening, but he had to come to his senses and understand who he was. He had to face hardship. His dad died when he was very young. He basically raised his brothers and sisters, and he didn't start his ministry those lost years. He spent most of those lost years taking care of his family until everyone was either settled, married, or almost married. And only then he started his second phase of preparation and then his ministry. So watching his life like this, and then knowing that the creator son of this universe had a full human life. So when they say in everything he was tested like you, it is literally true that God of this universe knows the human life in everything, all of it, the greed, the evil, the sin, if there is such a thing as sin, the hardship, poverty, jealousy, envy, everything, the good sides, the joy of having, he didn't have children, but he would, he had people around him, relationships, love, everything. So he can guide you through everything because he has that personal experience. It's just an immense comfort to know that God of this universe, which is not the ultimate God, the one, knows everything intimately from their own experience. So I can ask, you've done this, or you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So he does. It's a lot of people, a lot of traditions, either they don't have a personal concept of God, like Hinduism.
Right.
There's Krishna, and there's Shiva and Shakti, which are godly deity impersonations, but they're like representations of aspects of the divine. But in Hinduism, the divine is not personal. So can God really love you? How can something that is not a person love another person? How can something that is not a person love or relate to a person?
Right.
So this is really what the Urantia papers reveal to us, that God is the ultimate personality. And I'm not talking about Jesus, I'm talking about God. And he actually bestows personality. And so Brittany is a unique personality. Gabriel is a unique personality. It's not like you're better than me or vice versa, but there is not going to be another Brittany in this entire universe of universes, simply because you're unique.
Right.
And so, all these things basically give me a lot of trust in Jesus as okay, you've been here. You've literally been here. You've done that. You've literally done that. It's not an analogy. It's not a euphemism. It's an actual literal truth that he was here and he went through the entire human experience. So he can counsel, he can guide. That beautiful story about the footsteps in the sand. Have you heard about that one?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So you've got two sets of footsteps, and then you basically, God says, you can see all of your life I was walking beside you, and then all of a sudden it was a hard time and it's just one set of footsteps. So the person turns to the father and says, but here you left me. Then he says, no, here I was carrying you. Exactly. So so I guess that's the way I take it. He was here. He did everything we're doing. He understands from within us. And he said, just ask me and I will give it to you. I will guide you. And he left his spirit here, the spirit of truth, to actually, involve us and guide us in everything we do. So it's just, I feel a good feeling that I'm not alone, and I'm guided and I'm helped, and to sometimes let go of doing and pushing and trying to get things done, and just letting go and say, I leave it in your hands. This is too big for me. I'm trying, but I guess I'm trying, and that's the problem. Letting go.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So much amen. You're like speaking to me directly too, because that's the same guidance that's been given me in the last 2 weeks. Like, Brittany, you don't have to do so much. It's like, I appreciate you for your commitment and wanting to do such a good job, but can you please step back and let me do it? Oh yes, okay, fine. I can be and know that my beingness is enough, and I will be told and guided and in every single step and process of this. But I love everything that you just said, because it's so true. Like, that's how he is the teacher of humanity, because he's been here, he's done this, he knows what it's like. I mean, I think Christians are or Catholics are in like Lent right now. And isn't that like honoring the fact that he was in, you know, the desert for 40 days, or he was tempted by the devil himself, or we can say tempted by the ego in our language. But he had to go through it, and he had to also choose God. And I feel like that's something that we can see reflected in ourselves, that in those times of temptation or fear or darkness, that like you just finished saying, that we can ask him, and we can remember that he is carrying us. And when we can surrender into that faith, then we get to have the experiences that he's never left us, and he's still with us, and he's guiding us.
You know, in one of my sessions, this wasn't with a Course of Miracle teacher, it was with somebody who was working with well, the name escapes me, but the lady who had cancer and cured herself.
Anita Moraji?
No, the journey. You don't know about the journey?
No.
It's a different system.
Okay.
Anyway, you can Google it. But I had a session and this story came up.
Okay.
And then somehow I don't know, I was led to understand that even though it sounds weird and presumptuous and egotistical or whatever, that sometimes we have to carry God on our shoulders. And when I saw that in this session, I you know, that cannot be, you know, I'm still human, I'm still small, I'm still. But then later I was led to understand that there is an aspect of God that cannot experience the human experience without us. So if we don't open up, we have free will. We can close ourselves entirely to God and say, no, you're not part of my life. I don't believe in you. I'm going to do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of people going around in that state it's their choice. But if we open ourselves up, then God can see everything. He can be part of our lives, but from within, with our permission. And without our permission, it's not possible. He gave us the power to say no, which is quite amazing, actually. And so in that sense, when we say, I'm opening myself up to you, I'm letting God have an experience that otherwise he could not have, because he made me unique. He can experience Brittany from within if Brittany lets him, but he won't be able to experience this particular Gabriel if I don't let him. So in that sense, and he wants to, he loves us as children and he wants to all of it. So in that sense, that's how I understand that sometimes we have to somehow let God do things by our own power. That's where I see it right now. But it was almost weird to see that footstep story and understand it like upside down. Sometimes I'm carrying God on my shoulders when there's one set of footprints in the sand. And
I love that. I don't think I've fully seen it like that before. So thank you for this illuminating moment. But like, I'm almost seeing that at the beginning, when we are learning to trust and we're moving through the dark stuff and we're doing our healing work, that those are the times where he's carrying us. But then it gets to a point where we can trust him and we trust that, and he puts us back on the ground and we're walking here. And yeah, I can see that that's at the moment then where we're carrying God. And I feel like that's where, like in the Course, he says, like, you are the light of the world along with me. Like, you are saved and you can save. You are healed and you could heal. But it's because we have accepted what God and Jesus say about us, that I am his child and I am loved and I will be told everything that I need to know through your voice. And so it is, in a sense, that we're holding God on our shoulders in that sense, because we're doing this together. You know, like we could never be apart. And then I almost see that too. Then like God and like the Spirit and Jesus get to become our eyes here, and they get to become our thoughts here. And we get to then just walk the path that's been laid before us by them. But yeah, we have to open our heart and decide that that's what we want. And that we do want to hold the light, hold God on our shoulders. It's a decision. That is our power. Beautiful. I love this. Yeah. Okay, so this leads into, I guess the final question. But what would you say to someone who is kind of grappling with their faith a little bit and learning to trust Jesus, but is still a little bit unsure if they could trust him or trust communication with him? What would you say to someone who's a little bit unsure in their faith? Do you have any messages for them?
Yeah. I usually ask for many signs.
Thank you, me too.
Show me.
Be obvious, please. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
There's a conundrum here. Remember one of the scenes in Indiana Jones and I'm not sure if it's not the Temple of Doom. One of the Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford is in Petra.
Okay.
And he has to solve riddles, right? He's solving riddles. And this is the last riddle in whatever journey he's doing in this movie. And he just came out of a tunnel. There's a huge ford, like very deep, and a river running underneath. He sees about 20 meters away another tunnel. And obviously he knows he has to get there, but there's nothing, it's like he cannot jump. And then he's got a riddle solved, and he runs through that riddle. And then the answer is take a leap of faith. As soon as he puts his foot on the air, a bridge appears and he can walk and cross. But he had to put the foot in the air. He had to take that leap of faith. So I don't see how somehow, somewhere, we have to do that in our journey. Whenever we feel ready, sometimes we're being pushed, and there's no other way but trusting, because the situation in life makes you get to that choice. And it's like Harrison Ford, you cannot go back, you can only go forward, and you have to trust, and you have to jump. And then when you jump, you see for yourself what happens. And so I guess that is something that it's not pleasant, it's very scary, but we have to test it somehow. We have to somehow jump into the pool and hope that there's going to be water when I land there. Yeah. And if we feel afraid, then we can ask for other people's experiences. And if we ask enough people, we will see that invariably many of us had to go through something like this and say, this is too big for me. I cannot handle this. I have to trust that, there will be help. And then just ask for help. This is how I started. This is how my journey started. I was so miserable that I just said, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot take it. I wasn't even looking for God. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to finish my misery. I wasn't about to commit suicide, but it was such a dead end. Like I felt everything was closing on me. I just started praying spontaneously and say, I cannot do this anymore. I need help. And then one thing happened, and another thing happened, and another thing happened. And so many people and so many experiences. I guess for every one of us, it will be different, but it starts with asking for help, saying, this is not something I can do by myself. If there's somebody, something, someone out there, please help me. And then you'll see that there is, and they will. But it's a person. You can tell somebody about this. It's not going to work. You have to go through this yourself, and it's okay if it feels scary. And I just don't see how it's. I don't know. I haven't met anyone who has had it differently, but I guess I never asked actually. Maybe it's something that happened only to me. I don't know.
I've heard the same thing from everyone I was talking to, and I'm talking to a lot of people, and I think it even goes with that parable that says like leap and the net will appear, right? Just something like that, that we just have to demonstrate our faith. And I feel like that's even when Jesus, when he experienced the healings, that he would never be like, oh yeah, look what I just did. He'd be like, your faith has healed you. Right. So it's like the faith is the mark of our willingness to trust him. And you've been saying all the way along, like they can't just come in and save us. Like we have to ask for that. We have to decide that that's what we want. That is our free will. But then the second we have that invitation and the second we decide for faith, he is there. So thank you for saying all of that, because it is wholly true in my experience, and it's wholly true in the experiences that I hear from others and through others. And it's definitely reflected in your story and everything you're sharing today. It's good stuff. Thank you, Gabriel. Is there any other final thoughts that are coming forward, or do you feel complete?
No, I want to thank you for doing this. It's beautiful. And actually, the thing that we were thinking about doing, there's a new name that came along, and maybe that name will push you. It's called God's Channel. So
That's perfect.
That's perfect, right? A radio show called God's Channel. We're broadcasting live on God's Channel.
Do you know how, like, that to me is a Jesus thing? Like, I feel like Jesus makes puns and
it's
jokes.
Genius.
Oh, that's so genius. Oh my goodness. Okay, well.
Okay. Reconsider, please.
Let's think of that.
It's not only that we are God's channel, it's like that there is a God's channel.
There is a God's, tune into it,
like
the frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
That's genius. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, everybody who's watching. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with anyone that you feel this message would bless today. We love you. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.